and one's ability to attain an objective. That's the jihad. So the jihad is the effort to attain objective. Knowing the definition of the jihad, therefore the jihad is a spirit and is a character in the behavior of every believer. The jihad is practiced as a way of an engine helping one to fulfill the action that being commanded to him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The jihad is in the competition to gain the forgiveness of Allah, the race toward the forgiveness of Allah, the race toward the Jannah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described in His Quran, the race to the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The jihad is required to fulfill your prayer. The jihad is required to change some of your character that you believe and you need to cleanse them. The jihad is required to cure the heart. The jihad is required. Someone did, an action. He felt like he was so envy. That's not right. How can I treat such envy to try to take it away from my heart? How can I, help myself to not be inclined to things that they're wrong, but they still, attached to my heart? All that is jihad. How can I, find some of my time to dedicate it to help, to do way of work of dawah, things like that. How I really, want to learn, but I'm not doing enough for the learning. I'm not reading, I don't dedicate time for reading. I'm not getting enough, attending, the right, trend or right program help me to advance in knowledge. All of that jihad. Also, the spirit of the jihad, as when we look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ, many of the action happened on the battlefield. Therefore, the spirit of the jihad is how to fulfill and attain the objective. So when it comes to the battle, is the hardest and the harshest jihad. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordained on the believer to fight, they didn't like it. The nature of the nafs does not like to fight. The nature of the nafs want to be, prefer to be cozy among the family, around everyone. That's the nafs. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said qital, everyone qital, which is mean I'm going to a place that I might not see again my family at all. That's the qital. Therefore, when you think of the jihad, even when it's associated to the fight, it is how to be firm, standing with a strong heart in front of the enemy. That's the jihad, not the fight. That's why the jihad comes as a way of the purification in all its aspects. And that's how the jihad is also a test for the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and for the dedication of His deen. So its spirit in one's conduct, it gives the dignity, because the one who turn away from the jihad is going to be a prey, easy prey to the shaitan. Dignity, because the jihad teach that the effort he used to stand for justice, that's how he gained dignity. The dignity keeps one's dignity as long as he's firm and holding on his principles, and that's the required jihad. Purification, because it is the process of the purification. The more you do effort, the more one's heart is cleansed. Because the objective of the jihad is to have in our system, we love Allah more than we love anything else. And then comes His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's required jihad. Many things that dear to, to one's heart is things are, despised and disliked by Allah. The jihad here, how can I turn that to become like dislike it as Allah dislike it, as the Prophet ﷺ disliked it. Protect the protection, of course, because the jihad is upon the ummah, the whole ummah, to protect itself, to care about each other. So if there's an outside enemy want to hurt, the people, it is a requirement to defend. And then protect the sovereignty, to prepare anything possible in the best of the ability of the nation to protect its sovereignty, to not be invaded, to not be colonized, to not be. So you see, the jihad started from the very basic element, to just stand, to pray, to find the khushu', to struggle for that khushu', to the point to defend your family, to defend your nation, because all require effort. And this effort, genuine, sincere, and focused, and target its intent is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you see, the jihad, it can be and not be a system on its own. It is a character, it is a behavior, and it is a way of doing. It is a way of doing. So when it comes to implementation of the law of Islam, of the way of Islam as being a way of life, we need the jihad. And this is, we're going to, as we have in the plan, inshallah, to go through a presentation that we share with non-Muslim, and this is how we introduce the jihad, and this is when we study together. You will see how it's being introduced in a way, answer many of the questions without, having people to ask you, what about jihad? Because you define the jihad, you put it in its perspective, and it's very clear. The penal system, as we mentioned last time, the penal system, it is, composed of two aspects. You have the crime, which is committing the crime, and the punishment. However, reminding you of what we have said last time, the regulator of the system is the taqwa. The regulator of the system is piety. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He addressed to the believers, for example, about riba, He said, fear Allah, and then turn away from riba. Fear Allah, and then do this, and be from among the truthful. You'll find all the ayat, when addressing to the believer, that Allah addressed them with the covenant first, called them with the covenant between Him, and He called them with the best gift that He bestowed on them, which is the belief. And then the belief also has that element of the oath between Allah and His servant. O you who believe, with the name of the gift that Allah bestowed on you, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what is the regulator in the whole system of action is either for the individual or the society, the taqwa. However, as we described last time, the hudud comes in a way to protect the society when the taqwa is gone from certain individual. So the crime, which is the prohibition that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has restrained from committing them by setting specified punishment on specific crimes, that's what we call had, or by judging punishment. Hence the crime should be a prohibited action according to the Islamic belief. The prohibition is decreed by the Islamic law, and the existence of a punishment in the Islamic law for the crime committed. So this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defined this. However, the judge or the government or the system of ruling also depends on the type of a crime. With the ijtihad, they make certain punishment to protect the society. Types of crime, that al-hudud, adultery, false accusation, all of that require hudud. And you see, the hudud, the punishment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pushed in the Quran, touch the core of the structure of the society. The adultery touch the family. And it touch the family is the first cell of the society. If that is hurt and broken, then the society is broken. So adultery is to protect a whole society. The had is to protect the whole society, not just to punish the person, the people who committed it. The false accusation also, it's one of the major sin, and that's, create enmity, create division, and etc. Also, you can see it. It can be an individual crime, but the impact of it is a social impact. Having drinks that contains alcohol, that's the protection of the intellect, the brain, because when people, they do not, is not to protect the brain, then it's going to be the chaos. It's going to be like people, not having that capacity to make right planning, right decision. Then the first thing that's going to be hurt is the families, and then after that the society. And in the alcohol, what do you find? You find, turning away from the remembrance of Allah. The alcohol divert people from the remembrance of Allah, cause hatred, cause fight, and so on, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions. So imagine this, how when is spread into the society. Leaving Islam, the apostasy, as we have mentioned briefly, it is, considered, as the closest crime to be, regarded in this modern society, close to the apostasy, is the treason. The action of treason is exactly the apostasy in the system of Islam. Because people, when they ask a question, especially talking about the apostasy in Islam, say, look, you have the execution, when you're saying at the same time there's no compulsion in the deen. And they're saying, everyone has the freedom of faith. Of course, everyone has the freedom of faith. And no one is forced to be, in Islam, to be forced to be Muslim. However, in the system of Islam, and only this is in the system of Islam, that already they attain that purity, when we talk on a society of Muslim, living in spirit of Islamic way. As we're going to see, or actually we were already talking about, in the ruling system in Islam, the faith, the Islam, is what hold the whole system. We put it here. I think I mentioned it. Just go back to okay, observe the way of the deen in all the matters of life. Management of all affairs on the basis of the principle of the deen. So the justice is made through the way of the deen. Safety and stability is made through the way of the deen. Providing the needs of the society is made through the way of the deen. Investing the resources of the nations through the way of the deen. So the heart that is at the, let's say, the bliss or whatever prosperity the society is being given by Allah is from the deen. So the one, when he come and he will turn away from the deen, it is causing, a deep, let's say, kind of, that's why I call it treason. It's someone going against the whole system. Now, in a secular system, they have the whole life is done according to the man-made law, and the faith is something is outside of the life. So if someone commit apostasy here, he does not have any effect on the system. But in Islamic system, when the whole deen is holding and carrying the whole system, then the one who going to do apostasy is like doubting the whole system, spreading mischief in the whole system. And that's, to see how important is, the deen in a way of life of a believer, and in the establishment of the system of Islam. And this is only, of course, implemented in a society that means living in the way of Allah and implementing the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the subject living, or the citizen, they know the law. They are, let's say, the Khalifa that they elected, they want him to, they know that one of his mission is to execute such a law. Therefore, among the people who does not like that, he will announce that he cannot be from part of the society, he leaves, or so he's not part of this society at all. So this is not, for example, um, society, they decide, suddenly to, people, they said, we're going to implement the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And anyone who tried to change his deen, we're going to kill him. That's not the way. I mean, the time of the Prophet, many people, they changed their deen after Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj. And it was a test. Did the Prophet ﷺ did anything for any one of them? No. So this is as a protection of the system, not as a restriction of the freedom of faith. This is how to regard it, because we are looking as a system as a whole. So the apostasy, it will be, inflicted on it grievous penalty to protect the society and protect the system. It's not a restriction of the freedom of faith. Okay. Now. Wasn't that when the Prophet did not have an actual government? Yeah, but we have Islam. So we're saying, like in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, if it was something that embedded as one of the principles of Islam, so it will have implemented. The La ilaha illallah started from the beginning. But the element that came to protect the system only came when the whole system was established. Actually, in Medina happened. So the types, of course, al-hudud, al-qasas, soul for soul, eye for eye, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, and this is all the previous faith, they have the same thing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned this law in the Torah and in the Bible. Ad-diyah is the blood money. When someone kills by mistake, he will pay blood money, and if he does not have, he'll end up by fasting 2 months. Al-kafara is the expiation through fasting, through nafaqa. Yeah. This blood money, is it only for accidental killing or deliberate killing? The deliberate killing, if those who have the asma, those who have damul wali, the family of the killed one, if they forgive, then it turns into blood money. Because if someone kills deliberately and with premeditation, the person who the killer is going to be, apply on him, that's the qasas. And that's what we talked about, al-mithaliyah wal-waqi'i. Al-qasas is the right for the family to ask for it, of the killed one. And then the family will be invited to forgive, is another option. And if they forgive, they take instead ad-diyah. If they say no diyah, we want the person to inflict on him the qasas, that's it. However, in killing by error or mistake, that's only diyah. That's the blood money only. The punishment is blood money for accidental killing. Yes. Blood money. Someone driving reckless and he hit a person, he killed him. Blood money. There is no blood money available? It's al-aqila. It's the whole extended family to be paid. No, suppose somebody who did the accident did not have the money to pay. Is his family. Is required from the whole extended family. And that's actually another spirit in the Islamic law, that the whole family will be caring of each other for all of them to be good people. Because if one of them commit a crime, they will find themselves obliged to pay. Because they need to be like that unity in good, and also to support when they have hard time. And sometimes the government, if there's no, intervene to pay on their behalf. So it depends. What if the people were affected, the family say that I want the blood money, and
I don't want the person to be killed, rather I want the blood money. Because questions like these might come by non-Muslims who are knowledgeable in this. They might ask this question: what happens in a situation where, like, obviously the first one is to execute the person, the other one is the option for giving the blood money.
The decision in the hand of the family is not in the judge. Yeah.
So what if the family says we want the blood money, but the person is not able to pay it? So the same answer as you gave.
More settlement need to be done. So it depends on the case.
Okay, in that situation, the person cannot say, I don't have money, I don't have money. What if they don't have money?
And they kill him. So you don't have money, then we go to the first option. Allahu Alam. I mean, the people who are going to forgive, they're not going to be, mainly focusing on that. I mean, they lost a dear one, and they see like the one who took his life, also his life need to be taken. Because we need to understand other things also. Sometimes you might read it in the Quran, and someone see it, some people they see it kind of harsh, but it's not. As we have put the foundation of thoughts in the economic system, right? Everything belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then that mindset helps someone to be humble, sharing, and know whatever he has in his hand is from Allah and is not gonna last. The same thing for the lives. The life is a gift from Allah. So it's like the Sharia telling you, Allah gave you a life as a gift, and you take the life of other person with no right. Then your life, this life is going to be taken away. Allah subhanahu, I'm going to take my gift away. Because you don't deserve, you took the life of the other person. It's like the sariqa, cutting the hand. He said, that hand, I'll give it to you to be grateful, to use it for good. You stretch the hand to the haram. You should not get any more. Take it away. So when we think of a life as a gift to fulfill a mission that Allah created us for, Allah had the right to take his life. And he said, give me your life willingly, like happened to the people of Musa when they worshipped the calf. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, is like killing each other. It was very hard way of repentance. But the understanding is like, do you truly love Allah? Then give me back the life that I gave you, willingly, to be accepted and admitted in my mercy. If you want, keep live, then you're going to have the day of judgment. So the life is not us, we control it. It's a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's how the spirit of the ahkam in the Sharia is built.
Question for some countries, so-called Muslim countries, and they have not applied the hudud law, and they decide that, okay, now I'm going to do that. Is that, according to what you said, is it permissible to do that? Also, they have not been doing that for a long time.
No, because you have to have the system ready for it. If you don't have taqwa, then everybody the next day is going to be crippled. Like everyone with no hand, the other one. We have built the taqwa, and then the system need to reach a maturity. Look, the Prophet ﷺ, one of the the most devastating, if you can say, tool to causing oppression and discrimination in a way, it was the usury. The usury, especially the way how they used to do it, it leads always, often to slavery. So people who do not have to pay, they can take their children as slaves. The Prophet ﷺ announced its prohibition in the last year of his life. Why? When we know it's haram, look Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala how he spoke about the riba. because the society need to reach that maturity. Like it reached the maturity for the alcohol. Took gradually mature, being, subhanallah, learn, and that senses change, perception change, hearts change toward the good. Then the thing that was beloved to the heart, it becomes like the most hated in the heart. Someone will not even stand to someone even mention that name of alcohol. So when came the hukum to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, قال فهل أنتم منتهون, everyone throw everything what he has as stored from alcohol. And that maturity is required for the ahkam. Why we want always to think of the ahkam of Allah as bringing justice and bringing like stability and joy for people. This is what to provide stability, will provide like that tranquility, safety. If the hukum is implemented for people to be scared, to be threatened, to be like, oppressed, so this is not the hukum of Allah. It's not. So here I think there's the establishment of the penal system from the mercy of Allah on His servant. Thus, the practicing of this system rules should be done with strictness by the authorities, like how the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, just forgive each other before you come to me, because when it comes to the Prophet ﷺ or to the judge, he has to do it just to protect the system. The system should be imposed on all the tiers of the society without differentiating between them. And that is where the whole system collapses and will not have any effect. As the Prophet ﷺ said, he said, when the law is implemented on the weak one and being like kind of neglected, and people that they close their eyes when it's about a rich person, it is forbidden to not observe the penal system, and this is it required because it's to protect the society. The last from the qasas and diya, there is at-ta'zir. At-ta'zir is the way how the judge or the court or the system, the jurisdictional system, make an effort to to specify certain punishment for certain crime that does not exist in the Sharia. Whether it's neglected and that the Islamic law did not prescribe a punishment for. For example, prison, things like that is all from the chapter entered under the chapter of the ta'zir. So it depends on the time, depends on the society, it depends on the how spread is this crime in the society. It requires punishment. Then the punishment will be an effort, among the people, in the jurisdictional system. Say, for example, this person, we think to stop this, to punish whoever who does it, for example, to pay, or to have community service, or to be imprisoned for a few months, things like that. That's all from the ta'zir, as long as fulfilling the objective to protect the society and to forbid this evil and to eradicate to remove it from the society. So this is all the subsystem, mashallah. I will give a short summary on a drawing, trying to have everything how it's connected, and then we start inshallah, for the rest of the time. We try to start a little bit and be in the next chapter that we'll finish it next week, inshallah ta'ala. طيب. technical problem. I might need you. Inshallah is working. The password is given.
This is the this one Iman Ihsan Iman number 2 Ihsan.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Oops.
طيب. The system start with the shahad. So that's the pillar. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. And then this is shahada need to be kind of covering all the actions. So all the actions is under the umbrella of the shahada of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. So when we look at this, we see that the whole system, its origin is divine origin. It's from Allah. And that's what we call al-Rabbani. Then we have the characteristic of the system is that comprehensiveness, universality, and generality. Generality. So we said that this two, comprehensiveness, is related to the divine, and the generality, we said that it required to be implemented into the reality to be practical. We said it based on the maslaha. First maslaha. It's not writing good. A system of shura. Equality and justice. So these the characteristic of comprehensiveness and generality. In the system of Islam, we'll find all this regarding where? You'll find it in the system of government, ruling system, and into the economic system, and into the social system, which is all based on akhlaq. As we have the system, first system that we talked about is the akhlaq. So practically we see that the generality, the comprehensiveness, especially the generality who is required the maslaha as being the lead into extracting and making the law. The shura, which is the shura, where you find it? It is in the government system. The equality, you find it into the akhlaq and implemented in the social. And the justice, you'll find it into also the ruling system, which is like they have to execute it. The comprehensiveness, to be universal, we have the practical system to do it is ifta and hisbah. The ifta is to provide all the laws needed for any new issues, and the hisbah is to protect the deen, be at its level of moderation and of wasatiyah, so it continue to be viable and relevant.
On the side of generality, if we were talking about ruling economic system and what is the third one?
The social system. So just this small drawing to see that as what we been talking about as a characteristic of Islamic system, it's not only characteristic that being presented because of what we can extract from the Book of Allah, but it's also a system that it has its own way to be implemented. So the characteristic being, the base of the institution in the Islamic system. The institution in the Islamic system. So there is no like that gap. We say, for example, okay, universality, generality, you're talking about the maslahah, you're talking about the shura. Where's your shura? I said the shura is one of the pillars of the ruling system. Actually, the shura, if it's not implemented by the Khalifa he need to be removed. You're talking about the equality, I said the system of akhlaq is based on the brotherhood, based on the taqwa. And that's how the whole social system is based and is established. Moreover, we have the economic system that is coming in Islam to also help the society by guaranteeing for it the social justice by the fair distribution of the income through the way of the zakat. So intercorrelation between all the system to make the characteristic of Islam that we have mentioned to be real, not in the level of the papers or just spiritual, acrobacy of the spirit, or like a philosophy, or good thesis. No, it's a reality. It's a system. And a system that takes in consideration the natural disposition of human being, their sensitivity, their weakness. It takes everything in the human being. Now,
when you want to elect a leader, what's the basis of the election or selection?
the election, because the election based on the on piety, righteousness, integrity, because the election, as we said, it goes through first the assembly that we call Ahlul Aqdi wal Hal. So these people are the people who trustworthy, that people they trust. People of knowledge, people of taqwa. You see them, you like them, you love them, you trust them, you ask them for a question to help you. I said, and they said, who do you want from your community to elect, to represent you? And that representative is going to decide with other elected like him, whom is going to be the Khalif. So the group elected, people entrusted this mission, they are trustworthy. They are people who, pious. Those they look on behalf of the Muslim. Who's the one who will be able to fulfill the intent of the system of Islam, who's going to be executing the way of Allah, safeguard the deen, and establish the justice, and watch over the whole system to be done according to the way of Allah and His Messenger. By the people. By the people. And those assembly, those who elect the Khalif. Because when you elect a person to be representative, in this first base, you're going to eliminate anyone who has wickedness to be bought by anyone else to sell his voice. Only who accept to represent people that are unanimous that these are good people. Because it's not the agenda that you have who going to sell the person. is his uprightness who going to give him to entrust a mission. So I say, like, everyone will elect so and so. We're going to entrust you this mission to choose someone who's going to do justice for us. So it's not like I elect you to add me some money and more return in tax refund. It's different. The whole mindset is different. What? طيب. I'll try inshallah to do this drawing maybe on printed and everything will be clear, so it will be inshallah something like kind of a table bi'idhnillah. I will work on it inshallah. We'll edit inshallah ta'ala. But the idea, because there's a lot of nice words, nice wisdoms, one time the Prophet ﷺ in his dawah, he met one and he called him for Islam. He told him, I have a lot of wisdom too. So he's collecting, wise statement, and he showed them to the Prophet ﷺ. So the Prophet ﷺ said, this is in the way like, I'm calling you to the words of Allah. This is our words of people. So the words of people, they might have great wisdom, but it cannot lead a whole nation to a whole system that they practice to find everything together and help whole people to find their justice, to find their serenity, to find their joy. It's impossible. And the system of Islam is practical, is real. It's not beautiful words to say. That's why, when you look at the fiqh of Islam, the Islamic jurisprudence is set to fulfill those characteristics that we have mentioned. So when you say, for example, generality, we have a whole department in the ruling system to ensure the characteristic of generality. We say equality, we have the system of the Hizbah also. I mean, the ruling system, one of his mission is to have the justice between people. Okay, and based on equality. The tool of preference is taqwa, because the people elected based on taqwa, and the Khalifa is elected also based on taqwa. قال Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, the Banu Israel, they ask, they have a prophet, they said, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a ruler. So Allah appointed Talut. Talut, he was not from the line of those who, of prophethood who can have a king. So they pretend, only there's part of the descendant of Yaqub who can have the king. And he didn't have money, he was not rich. So the first thing, according to the criteria of the people of the dunya, they said, we deserve more the kingdom than him, right? Let's read this ayat and see how the system of Islam teaches these things. Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah, who remember it's in the 200. Bismillah. It's farther than that. Okay, we went far. Here. طيب. And their prophet said to them, indeed Allah has sent to you Talut as a king. They said, how can he have kinship over us while we are more worthy of kinship than him. And he has not been given any measure of wealth. So he has to be from descendant of noble family, plus he need to be rich. So that's this, how can someone be elected? So look what the Prophet said. He said, indeed Allah has chosen him over you and has increased him abundantly in knowledge. Knowledge. Knowledge is knowledge of taqwa, knowledge of integrity, of uprightness, of leading with sincerity. And stature is like the body. Why the scholar, they said, is preferred to be someone who's like, look like strong, tall and everything. Why? Because when it's seen, is respected. When he talk, he's more respected. And this is one of the preferences that been taken, because he going to lead an army, so he need to have that let's say to present an army stature of being like someone who's been, people when week one behind them, they feel like secure. He said he's gonna defend us. So look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قال, and Allah gives his sovereignty to whom he wills, and Allah is all encompassing in favor. So, and you look, Talut, when he's mentioning after that, it was about taqwa. He gave them the test to drink, and he have like more than this, the 75% almost of the whole army is left behind. He told them, I'm not going to take you because you're not people who has the right element of faith to take you with me. And this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaching us how the true leaders for a nation need to be. Jazakumullah khairan. I don't want to take more than your time. And inshallah we'll start the da'iyah inshallah next week bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Jazakumullah khairan wa barakallah. I mean, if there's any question, that's fine, inshallah. But anyone who want to leave your now. In for the the imitator is humiliating, harsh, and contradicts the personal freedom of them and their freedom of belief. The punishment of al-qasas gives the right of the punishment of the individual, not the society, and obligates individual to pay for a crime they did not commit. We can answer them, but I answer them because it is like to protect the system. And I mentioned, you remember last time, as a wall. So these people, they criticize the system or when there is no system. So the simple answer to these people to say, actually, the Islam does not implement the hudud the way you say it. It's only implemented at the maturity of a society. No.